Since 1917, the 8th Special Operations Squadron has been redesignated 13 times, led by 117 commanders, flown 16 different aircraft, and has received countless decorations and citations. The 8th Aero Squadron began its legacy in the DH-4, flying essential reconnaissance mission over France's Western Front during World War I. After the war, the 8th spent 20 years as a training attack aviation squadron, teaching air crews how to operate more than 10 different types of aircraft. In 1941, when the United States entered World War II, the Army Air Corps called on what had become the 8th Bombardment Squadron to fly anti-submarine patrols, deterring fearsome Nazi U-boats. A year later, the squadron engaged in combat missions in the Southwest and Western Pacific and continued throughout the war. On November 2, 1943, the commander of the 8th Bombardment Squadron, Major Raymond Wilkins, was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for daringly sacrificing himself in battle while leading his squadron in Rabaul, New Britain. His B-25's right wing was damaged on the way into the attack, but he continued to lead the squadron. His plane was further damaged when he took fire attempting to neutralize anti-aircraft fire. Rather than swerve into his wingman, Major Wilkins exposed the entire belly of his plane to the enemy and was shot down. He destroyed 2 enemy vessels, and his heroic actions made it possible for the safe withdrawal of his remaining squadron and the success of the mission. It wasn't long before the 8th was called upon again, this time flying B-26s over Korea. On September 14, 1951, Captain John Walmsley, a pilot with the 8th Bombardment Squadron, encountered a train in North Korea during an intruder search mission. He dropped ordnance to halt and disable it. Despite running out of munitions, Walmsley flew passes to illuminate the target so another bomber could find it. Exposing himself to anti-aircraft fire, his aircraft was hit on his 3rd pass and burst into flames. Walmsley was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions. The 8th flew tactical bombings against the Viet Cong in the B-57 for 8 years during the Vietnam War, and led counterinsurgency missions in the A-37 before being redesignated as the 8th Special Operations Squadron on September 30, 1970.
When the Vietnam War ended, there was a big drawdown of special operations. There was no emphasis, no money, no new airplanes. The United States Air Force really didn't know what to do with special ops. So the Air Force decided to put the special ops assets from the Vietnam War into a wing at Hurlburt called the Special Operations Wing. At that time, the 1st SOW had the MC-130 Combat Talon 1, and that's when the 8th stood up with that aircraft at Hurlburt in the mid-70s.
Then in '79, they captured the hostages in Iran, and within a week, we were working here to fix that.
We trained for 5 months, kept it secret, deployed halfway around the world to Egypt and eventually to Oman. When we got to Oman, the tower operators at the airport saw us arrive, set up a little tent city on the far end of the airfield, and didn't know what the hell we were there for, what we were doing.
In April, we went to Desert One, and everybody knows that story.
On the night of April 24th, 6 C-130s left, and 7 or 8 hours later, 5 came back.
The helicopter that hit Hal Lewis's airplane, when he lifted off, he basically whited out from the sand, couldn't see, thought he was drifting backwards, and in fact he was not drifting backwards. So when he put forward collective in, he clipped the tail of the 130, and that's where the disaster started.
We had the tragedy. We lost 5 brave airmen and 3 brave Marines.
So the Brits got 2 cases of Bass Ale and drove them around to our tent city as we were recovering and dropped the 2 cases of beer off. And they wrote on the cardboard flap of one of the cases, "To you all from us all for having the guts to try."
The mission was, quote, a failure, but as a lot of people nowadays talk about it, it was a watershed event, and it changed special ops forever.
They had taken their college students at Grenada and held them captive, and we made a decision to go get them.
So we took off here and we flew to Charleston Air Force Base, and
The vice president was there and he talked to us. He said, this is a very important mission. We got in airplanes and took off. We may have been half a mile off the end of the runway, and man, the sky just lit up. And we were very lucky that we never got hit. At the TOT, we flew down the runway. It was about 800 feet. And I said to the Army Ranger, I put him on headset, and I said, okay, we're inbound, and boy, they got all hot and bothered, you know, and all this shit in the back. They couldn't wait to get out of the airplane. This was one of the lowest personnel airdrops that had ever been done at that point in time. We could see the AAA coming up at us. Fortunately, we were low enough that they couldn't depress their guns enough to get to us. Without us, they couldn't have got the Rangers on the ground. Without the Rangers, the mission wouldn't have went. So everybody had a part. All those parts have to come together. We had our portion to do. The Rangers had their portion to do. We got them on target.
When I got to the 8th SOS, there was a skeleton staff because they were already deployed to Woodbridge, England in preparation for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. The missions that we were actually flying, there was some probing that was being done by some of the helicopters, and we were refueling the 53s, getting close to the borders. Within a week of the 15th, we were doing leaflet drops that were telling the Iraqis how to surrender and what the consequences would be if they did not surrender, telling the Iraqis, hey, we're coming with the most powerful weapon in the U.S. arsenal that was non-nuclear. It was primarily the leaflet drops that ultimately got to the Blue 82 drops that we were doing as well. It was a 15,000-pound bomb on a platform that a small parachute went out behind the airplane. When we got to the release point, we released the platform. It separated from the carriage that it was on and went down. And with the combination of the Blue 82s, the leaflets, I think we definitely contributed to shortening the engagement.
The 8th SOS deployed on September 20th, 2001, and we arrived at Masira, Oman, on September 23rd. 21 years later, pretty much the same airplanes, but we carried all that joint training with us, and it made all the difference in the world. Pretty much the entire squadron was deployed. We had half the squadron with us there in Pakistan, and the other half of the squadron at Masira. A lot of heavyweight refueling of a lot of helicopters, moving them around. It was quite the dance. Distinctly remember the night of the Knife 03-04 mission, and our aircraft were right there. 2 aircraft cycling off the tanker, and as soon as they lifted off, they were right there to refuel them. Very thin margin for error, but they got it done, got them refueled, got them out of country, got them home. So it was just night after night, night after night after night. Every day was Groundhog Day for months, and the guys were ready for it. They loved it. Yet the attitude of the 8th SOS Airmen, they're ready to go. They're ready to fly. They're ready to get the mission done. It was tremendous, tremendous.
So some of the different things that we're doing now compared to what the 8th was doing, helocast, military free fall, fast ropes, hoist operations for personnel recovery if we need to. We do CASEVAC, so we'll carry PJs or surgical resuscitation teams, still doing the resupply of SOF and material.
You look at it and it sends chills up your spine, thinking all the people that went before you that fought from World War I to World War II, Vietnam, Desert One, Afghanistan, Iraq, all the missions since, and you just feel proud.